That's kind of my idea of unschooling. It's like I'm unbound from this system that you've told me that I have to live in, and now I'm just giving my kids what I think they need and what.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Anarchast, home for anarchy on the internet. I've got a great guest coming on. It's Angel Robinson. She's been helping out a ton with Anarchapulco 2020. If you haven't subscribed to the Anarchapulco Facebook page or YouTube channel and all that, make sure you do that. Pause this video right now and go do that, because she and many other people, including David Rodriguez and Catherine Bleish and many others, put out almost pretty much weekly videos, great content on there. And I kind of see the views, and I don't think a lot of people know they exist, because if they did, they'd probably want to watch it because it's really good stuff, and the view counts aren't all that high. So pause the video right now, go and subscribe to the Anarchapulco Facebook page, Anarchapulco YouTube channel. Make sure you click the bell so you get notified whenever there's a new video. And like I said, Angel's been doing a great job, and actually her and David and everyone have been really kind of like motivating me. I've been doing this for a while, and you have your ups and downs. And the last couple of years, I've been kind of like, man, this is a lot of work and all that kind of stuff. And so seeing people like Angel coming in with like this sort of like vibrant energy of like someone who's kind of like newer to this stuff really kind of gets me going. Like, oh, that's how I used to be. It's so nice to see. And if you watched, I don't know if you guys know, but I did a video called "Fuck the Government," a rap video with Joe Murray. Angel's in that as well. So Angel's coming in from Austin, Texas, where she was just in court with, I think, Catherine Bleish about some BS as usual. So Angel, it's great to see you. And the first question I got to ask you, though, is how did you become an anarchist?
Hey, thank you, Jeff, for inviting me. How did I become an anarchist? Like a lot of people, Ron Paul was really the catalyst for me. I think before Ron Paul, I was a default Democrat. I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up poor. I didn't think about government at all, really. And to the extent that I did, I kind of had the idea that the Democrats want to help poor people, and I kind of had the idea that Republicans don't, which, in hindsight, it's like that's such a simplistic view of the whole process. But that's kind of how I grew up, and I never really questioned that. And then I think the first time I ever questioned government and its intentions really wasn't Ron Paul, but it was that movie by Michael Moore about the war. And that was the first time I thought, oh man, maybe this war isn't a good war. And remember, I'm in my early 20s, so I don't know anything about really history or like that's just not part of my world to think about it and think about it in a deep way. And so, and I also, that song, I'm proud to be an American. That, I love that song. Like, that's kind of how I grew up. And so that movie was the first time it occurred to me that maybe I wasn't being told the truth. And that's where I got politically active in terms of just like consuming a lot more political content, and defaulted into the Democratic Party until I heard Ron Paul. I decided to watch that Republican debate just to kind of see what they were talking about. And he was the only person who seemed honest. He seemed incredibly rational, logical, and was giving real answers to questions as opposed to the demagoguery that happens. And so when he said they don't hate us because we're free, they hate us because we've been over there, we've been in their countries, we've been meddling, and that it like really struck true to me, right? Like that was like a true moment of Ron Paul speaking truth to power, because that moment powered my entire existence, actually, that moment of truth and like aha. And so I consumed all the things Ron Paul for a long time, and I was like the only Ron Paul person, I started to think of myself as a libertarian, the only libertarian that I knew. So that was an interesting time, and I kind of fell into Alex Jones. let me tell you, thinking you're the only person who's a libertarian and running into Alex Jones, not a good combination. Definitely not. I mean, he says a lot of good things, but the focus is really on a lot of fear, and so that's where I was in a space without anyone to really talk to, and like a lot of negative information being shared with me, and so when I really got involved with the libertarian/anarchist community, that's when I really started to learn more about economics, which is really the direction that my attention went into, because I do care about helping people. And so freedom actually is good for people, even economically. That was something I discovered, and I read Mises and Rothbard and Hoppe and like all of these, and in Tom Woods, and just consuming economics because I really wanted solutions, and I wanted to be able to say to the people I was talking to, hey, like I care about this stuff too, and there are some solutions. Maybe we haven't thought about this the right way. Some of it's counterintuitive, and I just wanted to be prepared to talk to people. And so I read What Has Government Done to Our Money by Murray Rothbard, and that was that book for me, that moment. Thank you, Tennyson, for giving it to me, or telling me to read it. That moment, that book was the book that really like just pushed me over the edge to just straight up, fuck you, government, anarchy, bitches.
That's great. Yes, I think definitely Ron Paul is the biggest answer of the question, how did you become an anarchist, on this show. I've never added them all up, but it's got to be by far the biggest one. And some people say, oh, he was a congressman and he's never fully gone on stage and said everyone should be anarchist or anything like that, so he's like a statist or something. Well, he's spoken at the last two Anarchapulcos. He's speaking again at 2020. He's been on C-SPAN saying anarchy is a great idea, and so no matter what you might think of Ron Paul, he woke up a lot of people to libertarianism, and despite all the odds, because he was really, I'm surprised like even yourself found out about him, because they really had it on the mainstream media. It was very hard to find out about him. He'd have literally football stadiums packed with people, and who was like Mitt Romney or something would have like a school classroom with about 30 people, and they'd be like, looks like Mitt Romney's got this one, and they'd show the polls, and they'd have it on the wrong order. So like, oh, Ron Paul's only got 2% when he actually had like 80% or something. Very interesting that so many people have come through that, and that's still to this day why I know people like Larkin Rose are like, don't even go near the political system. I'm like, go near the political system. Everyone get into the political system and start talking, because that's one way we can wake people up. But I don't see any solutions politically, but I think that's a way that we can get in front of people with these ideas. And very interesting as well that you went on to learn about economics and stuff like that. And that really is kind of a key thing to a lot of this. And as you pointed out, who knew? Freedom is actually pretty good for people. But of course, you'll never hear that about that on the mainstream media. So I actually don't know the story about how you ended up working with Anarchapulco. So have you give us the story about how that all occurred?
So last year was my first year at Anarchapulco, just as a regular attendee, and I went by myself. I hung out with lots of anarchists and listened to the conversations. I had a great time. And this year, I definitely intended on going back. I'm in event planning. That's kind of my new life post-divorce, I guess. And so when Kat said that she was helping with Anarchapulco, I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. Let me know if there's anything we can do. And sure enough, there was, they started the blog, which if anyone who hasn't visited the blog yet, visit the blog. There's great content there and more content that'll be coming out, and we're getting some good submissions from people. So I'm really excited about what that can be in the long run. But they asked me if I wanted to edit the blog, and I said yes. And as I started to participate in some of the meetings, as I do, I spread my wings into all the areas that I could spread my wings and kind of share my light. And, to Jessica's credit, she if you provide value, if you give good ideas, you know, she gives you the avenue. She enables you to like really put those ideas into play, and that's really what happened. And so I've been helping David with the Free Your Family camp, and I'm a mom. I'm an unschooling mom, and that's really kind of who I am at my core, is a very maternal person. So it's a good fit for me to also be thinking creatively about how to keep kids entertained and engaged while they are at Anarchapulco and immersed in our philosophy of freedom. So yeah, that's how I got involved. I just spread my tentacles where I could, although I like wings better. That's a better image.
Yeah, wings sounds a bit better than tentacles. Yeah. But yeah, that's great. And he's brought the Free Your Family camp. I actually haven't talked too much about it here on Anarchast, but definitely a lot of great people involved in that from what I've seen. You probably know even more than me about it. I'm so busy and I'm not day-to-day involved in the operations or anything, but I do know that a lot of people brought their kids down over the last few years, and I've never heard a bad thing about them having a bad experience. If anything, they've had an amazing experience. Even the hotel there is amazing. If people have like really young kids, like 2 years old, stuff like that, they have this like kids room where it's pretty amazing. They got a bunch of sort of like teenagers in there, like just local teenagers, and they just play with them all day and all that kind of stuff. And there's video games and stuff like that. So if you're thinking about coming to Anarchapulco, which is coming up in like less than 2 weeks at this point, and you want to bring your kids, definitely don't hesitate. Of course, anyone, we say basically under 18 is free admission, so don't worry about paying for any kids. Lots of activities, and maybe you know a bit more than me about what's going to be happening at the Free Your Family camp.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to say, like, what's really cool about the Free Your Family camp and everything that you are doing, but that we are doing with Anarchapulco, is that it's really about building community, and there's a shift away from like the angry anarchist, you know, and it's really about, you know, what we are, who we are, and being part of each other's community. And so I love that there's this focus on the family, because that's a huge part of life. And I think a lot of what happens in the world that's going to move us away from government is going to be us getting together, strong as families, taking care of ourselves, and being in the position in order to, one, not be dependent on government, and to have creative solutions about how we, you know, move forward without government. And so you need to have strong families to do that. And I like the idea that we get to come together and immerse our kids into our philosophy. I'm an unschooler. I'm a believer in self-directed learning, but I'm also a believer in freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and I don't want to proselytize to my kids. So I could sit every day and talk to them about anarchy and government and principles, but one, I don't want to be a proselytizer. I want them to come to these ideas in the same way that I did, which is honestly with their own understanding and, you know, internalizing it. But part of that is also that, you know, kids tend to be a little bit resistant to their parents. And so I like the idea that they get to go to this place. My own kids get to go to this place now where a lot of people believe in the things that I believe, and they are going to be hearing it from different places, different people, and different perspectives. And that makes, and that helps them, you know, it helps to normalize the idea. Like it's not like, oh, my mom is weird, she's all freedom. This is a space where bring your kids, and they're going to meet other kids who have parents that are like you and who are talking about the same things. And it really does just help to validate our perspectives with our kids. So I love that. But to answer your question about what the kids are going to be doing, I have a few things. You know, we're all about self-directed learning, so we want to give the kids a place to stay, but a place to play, but not control their behavior. And so it's finding the balance of creating activities that are fun to do, but then also allowing kids to have, just imaginative play. So one of the things I'm really excited about is our Minecraft build and play, which is like in real life Minecraft. So it's boxes that we allow the kids to build things with, and they can build shields and swords, and they can just build and destroy and build. Creative destruction, right? Build and destroy and build and destroy. And I think it's going to wear your kids out. It's going to keep them busy. And it's a really fun thing to do. So that's one of the things we have in store. There's going to be a photo scavenger hunt, which I think will get kids thinking creatively to come up with, to look around their surroundings, to be perceptive and take pictures to meet whatever the challenge is. I think that's going to be fun. I would love to see kids roving about in groups, helping each other, like younger kids, older kids, to just come up with great ideas to fulfill the challenges. There's arts and crafts. We have some crafts that, so for those kids who need a little more structure, we'll have some crafts that are very specific that they can do, but we'll also provide just the implements for kids to be creative and do what they do and share that with everyone else. There's so many. There's a kids Olympics. That's going to be fun. It's about team building and just getting everybody playing together with some fun, simple games that everyone can do and everyone can be involved in, and we can all laugh and giggle and just play together. Just lots of things like that that we're planning, and that's in addition to the programming for parents and older kiddos. The stages, the speakers that David has really been working hard to get some really great speakers who are going to help parents to understand, because we're all at different levels, right? So he's going to help people to understand, or he and everyone there, how to really embody the philosophy of freedom. Yeah.
That's great. Wow, I didn't know a lot of that. I have two kids, a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and my son's a huge Minecraft fan. So, and actually, this will be the first event that I'll have my kids there the entire week. So I'm definitely going to get them involved. I didn't even know about a lot of this stuff. That's great. And my son speaks Spanish, English, and German, and my daughter speaks Spanish and English. So it might be good for people who are not from Mexico to the kids to know my kids. And learn about a bit of life in Mexico. And actually, my kids both go to school. I wish I was an unschooler, but we live here in Mexico, and they have amazing Montessori schools, and they're actually unbelievably cheap compared to the U.S. In the U.S., I've heard like $3,000 a month or something, $5,000 a month or more for a Montessori school. And here it's about $200 or $300 a month. And I keep saying to my kids, you don't have to go. And they're like, but we have the best time every single day. And I'm like, that's nothing like how I felt when I was in school in Canada. And I'm like, you don't have to go. And they're like, we want to. It's the best time. We have fun all day long. I'm like, okay, go. So it's not like I'm disappointed, but I always wanted to be like an unschooler, and they just love these Montessori schools so much, so I can't get them out of there. But that's great, because I remember when I was in school, I don't know about you, and maybe in Brooklyn there, but I'm from a place that's not very habitable, northern Canada, and basically I just go to school all day and get beat up all day. Basically, that was my life. So to see their life that way is so great. And be very interesting to see some unschoolers there, unschooled kids. Do you mind me asking how old your kids are?
So I have 4. My oldest is 19. She's already out of the house. She moved out when she was 17.
What? How old are you? I kind of thought you were 25 or something.
Why, thank you, Jeff. I'm actually...
I won't ask you. You don't have to say how old you are if you don't want to.
I don't even care. I'm 38 years old. It's interesting.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what that means. I'm 38 years old. I feel like I'm my 12-year-old self, Like I never grew up. It's just, people just think I'm an adult.
I don't think you mentioned, how old are your kids? You have one that's 19?
So I have a 19-year-old, I have 2 15-year-olds, and I have a 6-year-old. And all of them will be joining me in Acapulco this year. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's great. I'm looking forward to meeting them. And are they all unschooled, like even your older ones?
No, the 15-year-old and the 6-year-old, yes. My older kiddo was not unschooled or homeschooled, really. She homeschooled her her senior year. That's when she decided she was done with school and she was going to homeschool and take her SATs and then just move on, which was really great for us because school is tough, even if you're popular. I mean, she's a beautiful girl and social, but I think, and she made the choice, actually. It was really a choice for her in the same way that your kids wanted to go to school. I don't think she wanted to go to school because it was fun, but I think she was definitely on a track and decided that's the track that she wanted to be on. And so even with being able to make the choice for school, I think it was difficult for her. I think that there are a lot of kids who are going there who aren't emotionally, a lot of them aren't there because they want to be. A lot of them have problems at home. A lot of them live in authoritarian homes. The school is very authoritarian. It isn't, a lot of the times, it's not self-directed. And so there's a lot of angst. And they are forced to be in this environment with the same kids every day. And they can't escape the people who don't make them feel good. And so I think... And I think even though it was her choice to be there, I think she was kind of suffering from that environment in general. And when she decided in her senior year to leave school, I mean, we really saw this huge shift in who she was as a person. She just blew, it would be the case that she would, and she probably won't mind me saying this, but it would be the case that, she would come into the kitchen and we'd be chatting and she would be nasty and mean and like for no reason, just be upset. And it was like, what is happening here? And that changed when she left school. So I really think that environment does not create, it's an anti-social environment a lot of the times, especially traditional schooling. I like Montessori schools, like the idea of them. I love the idea that kids are like intermingling with different age ranges. And I also, for me, unschooling is like, no, we don't do any, it's like no structure. I think unschooling really is more about the idea of looking at what people tell you have to do, looking at the traditional way of schooling and saying no, and then just really getting in tune with you have a dynamic view of what education is for your kids and you're willing to meet their needs, whatever their individualized needs. That's kind of my idea of unschooling. It's like I'm unbound from the system that you've told me that I have to live in, and now I'm just giving my kids what I think they need and what.
Oh, very interesting. You actually made me feel better now because maybe I am kind of unschooling because, like, I'll tell them all the time, you don't have to go. And many times, there'll be many days where they're like, we're just not going to go. We don't feel like it. I'm like, cool. And we'll take vacations for like a week or two at a time. And, like, I don't even talk to the school or anything. Like, my wife probably does. I'm pretty sure she does. She probably lets them know, but we're just like, well, we're taking off for a couple of weeks, and then they come back, and it's like, yeah, go to school if you want. I don't care. It's like, so yeah, you kind of make me, okay, maybe I am kind of unschooling, but just a little kind of in a different kind of way, because it really definitely, it is their choice, and that's where they want to be. And they've actually switched to few different schools. They actually, it's kind of funny. I meet these, like, I remember a lot of kids who go to government schools. And you hear about this a lot. Like, I hear a lot of parents go, well, I can't, I don't want to live here in this certain city or this country, but I can't leave because my kids, it'll be so upsetting to them. They're like in grade 8 or grade 10, they're going to lose their friends and all that. And we've moved around quite a bit. I've actually lived in Cabo. I've lived in Acapulco. We have a place north of Mexico City. And every time that we move, the kids are like, oh, this could be fun. Great adventure. Like, I've never heard them complain about it at all. And even when we're living in a city, like my son actually wanted to try out a different school. He's like, yeah, I'm kind of bored of this one. There's one that actually has half German immersion Montessori school, and he was born in Germany. And so he's like, I want to try that one out. I'm like, cool. So yeah, very just sort of like go with the flow, how you feeling, what do you want to do, sort of a thing. So that's great. And for the people out there, because I remember when I first heard about unschooling from Dana Martin, and when I first started talking about it, I was kind of confused about it. Like, I was like, "What? You can do that?" I still was kind of in the box, so to speak. And many people, even today, will, when they hear the word unschooling, they're going to kind of be like, "That's crazy," or "That's, your kids are going to get all effed up." And it's kind of funny you brought up that a government school is pretty antisocial. It really is. And a lot of people will say, if your kids are homeschooled or unschooled, how are they going to socialize? It's like they socialize every day. They're like out in the real world every day doing stuff. So what would you say to people having basically unschooled a few of your kids about how it's been for them? Like what would you say to someone who's like, "Whoa, you unschool your kids? Like, what's that like?"
I would say it's challenging in many ways because of my own background, right? Like, I've grown up in a certain culture. And so the way that our culture, the benchmarks that they set for us, we want to meet those. Like, that's how we know we're doing it right. And I would say that unschooling is about, and homeschooling in general, is about not allowing somebody to tell you what life should look like. And that isn't to say that I want my kids to learn how to read. I want them to be capable, but I don't think that in order to do that, they need to learn in the way that the traditional schooling system teaches them. I think that a lot of learning will take place when they really internalize it, when they really are interested in something. I think that's, and I think as an unschooler, what we try to do is present our kids with enough stimuli, enough of the prompts to really get them thinking and doing, and giving them the space to not think and do. There's this movie, I think it's Christopher Robin. I'm totally gonna screw up the quote, but I love Pooh in general. I don't know if you know who Pooh Bear is. Yeah. Winnie the Pooh, and he says something like, sometimes the best some things come out of nothing, or it's something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but the idea is that sometimes just having the space to do nothing allows you the ability to do something, to find something great, and so I think that's a part of it. But like I said, it's challenging because I'm always like, oh my God, am I going to make my kids hobos? Are they gonna? I don't know, and honestly, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be. I know I went to school. I know that I use almost nothing of what I went to school. I know that I indebted myself in college, and I use nothing. My entire career is based on my efforts, the efforts that I put forth in building relationships with people and just being very capable and learning on the fly, always being ready to take on the next challenge and just, figure it out as I go along. So trial and error. So I think as an unschooler, it's more important for me to teach the kids, one, trial and error, to give them the ability to fail and fail gracefully and let them know that that's okay. And I don't think the school system does that. A lot of the school system is like, you must succeed, you must succeed, you must succeed. Try. And I think and it makes it very difficult for kids to be okay with failure. And you have to be okay with failure if you're going to do anything good or great, because you're going to fail. That is what life is. And you learn from those failures. And so that's part of unschooling. And just being okay. What I think about traditional schooling is that they put kids on a track. They say, we know what the landscape looks like, and we're going to insert your kids. We're going to prepare them for this world. So maybe they do, maybe they don't. But there's no creativity there. And I think unschooling allows us to say, hey, I don't know what the future is going to look like. So why don't you tell me? Tell me, show me, spend your days discovering the world, and maybe you will discover something about the world that we haven't discovered yet. Maybe you will create something that really changes culture, the way we live. And so I like the idea of unschooling for that reason too. It says, I don't know what the future is. I don't know what the future can be, but you are the future. So let's see what you got up there. And so that's part of it too. And again, like I said, unschooling for me is not about not teaching your kids. It's not about lazing about me, and though sometimes that may happen, it's really just about meeting the needs of your individual kids. If they tell you they want structure, give them structure. If they tell you they need space and time alone, give them time alone. If they want to play video games, then I guess let them play video games. Although I'm not so sure about. But whatever you do, have it be a joint decision to the extent that your child trusts you to give them input in that decision. And I think that's what parenting is just moving along with your children and cultivating a sense of trust, such that when you do give them advice and when you do tell them what you think they should be doing, they know that that's from a place of love, and they respect you. And if they say no, that's also good, because like this is their path. They're forging it on their own. And like it's so great that you could say no and make a decision and bear out the consequences and grow from it.
Yeah, absolutely. You were kind of talking about sort of like letting them go a little bit, right? Like not trying to control everything. And I think so many people, for whatever reason, I don't really understand it because I'm not like that, they just want to control, like you have to, you're my kid, you have to go to this school, I'm putting you in this school, you have to become this, you have to become a doctor or lawyer or whatever. So many people just want to control so much, and it's actually, I think, comes out of fear because they're so scared that their kid will, like you say, become a hobo or something. That it's actually kind of out of love, but it's a fear-based reaction to it. They love the kid, but they're so scared that something bad's going to happen to them that they try to control too much. And when you try to do that, it has. I hear about it all the time. I have a lot of people who don't raise kids. Unschooling or peaceful parenting, and they go to the government schools and all that, and they tell them what to do, and all I hear is just problems, like, oh, the kid's going crazy this week, he's throwing a tantrum, all this kind of stuff. It's like I have, like I said, a 15 and a 13-year-old. They've never ever caused a problem. Like it's almost shocking. Like we'll go on an 8-hour car drive, and after about the end of the 8 hours, I almost forget they're there because my son will be writing a movie script or something. My daughter will be on her iPad on TikTok or something. I'll be like, oh, I totally forgot you guys were even here. I haven't heard anything from you for hours. I'm like, are you okay? They're like, yeah, we're doing great. I'm like, good. And then you go into other people's car and it's just chaos. When are we getting there? I want this, I want that kind of stuff. So, a lot of things in life, it's the opposite happens of what you think. So those people who are trying to control, they think they're doing the right thing, but they're going to cause a lot of chaos. And then when you don't try to control, a lot of people think it's going to be a lot of chaos when, in my experience, it hasn't been barely at all. Yeah,
no, I agree. My daughter moved out when she was 17. So happy she moved out. We got an extra room now. But she moved just a few minutes away from us. But when I would tell people, normal people, they would go, oh my God, are you okay? How do you feel about this? And I said, my daughter hasn't had rules. We haven't had rules. I have been able to watch who she is very openly and honestly, and I've seen everything that she's going to do, and I have, there's not going to be this rebellion that happens because she's finally free. She's not going to do that. She's always been free, and so she's making her choices. So I know what kinds of choices she's going to make, and I feel good about the person that I'm setting forth into the world. And it's like you said, like my teenagers are great, great, and I think it's because being a good person is about habits, and forming good habits is about making the choice to form good habits. And if you are always being forced to form good habits as opposed to like really choosing it for yourself, then you're not going to be a good person, and you are going to rebel, and you are always going to be in a state of rebellion. And I think the same applies with government in general. It's like, especially with like welfare, and like you want to force me to be charitable, you want to force people to be charitable, but you're like missing the forest for the trees. Like we want people to be charitable because it's a kindness. We want that to be what people, something that people internalize. We want it to be an indication that they are good. But if you forget about that part of it and you just focus on the result, right, you're not really making anyone good. You're not living in a society where people care about people. You're living in a society where people are living in fear of you. And that's not the kind of society I want to live in. And it's not even the kind of society you want to live in. You just don't know any better, apparently.
Yeah, I remember when my kids were younger, there was a Halloween, and my son said, I'm going to eat all this candy tonight. And I was like, I wouldn't do that. And he's like, why? I'm like, you're not going to feel good after you do that. And he's like, I think I will. So he did. Next day he comes in, and he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have listened to you. I was like, I tried to tell you. And he's like, I know. That was so stupid. I'm like, well, you learned. And that's how I've been with my kids their whole life. And now it's like at the point where if they've got a problem or they have a question or they've got a decision to make, they come to both my wife and I because we've been there since day one trying to give them the best advice we can. But there's no like shaming them or you have to do this or you have to do that. It's like, it's your choice. People are, I think people would be amazed if they did more of that kind of stuff, the results of it. And so I think we should almost leave it there. That's quite a bit of talk on sort of unschooling, family camp, Anarchapulco, all that kind of stuff. Just to let people know, we are coming up. It's less than 2 weeks. It's not too late. There's still hotel rooms available. There's still tickets available. And you can come to Free Your Family Camp and all that kind of stuff. So, Angel, is there anything that you want to, maybe you have some final comments or anything you want to finish up with? Or if there's anything you want to let people know, like if you have a blog or a website or anything like that?
Yeah, well, Conversations in Anarchy. Join us every Tuesday. It is a fun show. It's all about us, again, like creating community, chatting about different issues. I don't think there's anything out there like it that allows you, where we talk about the philosophy of liberty, but we also engage with the community and allow people to be a part of that, to be a part of those discussions. So it feels more like we're building friendships with people, and the same people come back every week. And so, like, hi, Danny, and hi, Mike, and so it feels good to be a part of that community. So I think if you are not a part of community in your normal life, this is really going to be something that I think provides a lot of value. And I know we're going to do a live Conversations in Anarchy at Anarchapulco. So in my normal life, I don't blog. It's interesting because generally I do tend to be a sort of pretty private person and not kind of like out there in the world. And being part of Anarchapulco has made me much more kind of out there in the world. But I think it's important. I think that my perspective, it's like you said something earlier about the energy. It's like this new energy that I'm bringing, right? But I've been in the movement for 10, 11, 12 years. I don't even know. So it's been a long time, and I have gone through all the many stages, of being just, naive and like, yay, we're going to spread some freedom. It's going to happen. And then feeling disappointed because it didn't work out like that and people aren't listening to me. And then angry because these motherfuckers, how come they don't get this shit? And then reclusive and saying, no, I don't want this to be a part of my life anymore. I don't want to fight. And then finding myself and working on myself and working on my family. And now to this point where it's like, oh, I feel good. I'm ready to go back out into the world. Something about when you feel good where you are, you want to spread that. And that's kind of where I am. And Conversations in Anarchy is part of that, and the blog is part of that, and all of the things that we are all going to work on in the future is part of that. I love the shift that I love the shift that I see in the community. I love the personal growth. Chris Melchizedek, who's one of the speakers, talks about us entering into some new sort of era or something. I don't know about that, but I do know that I feel a shift in a lot of the people that I'm interacting with. And, whether it's something supernatural or, although I don't believe in anything supernatural, and I don't know that that's what he's saying, but whatever it is, I feel it, I see it in everyone. I see everyone on their personal growth paths, and I think we can do that together. And thank you, Jeff, for, Anarchapulco, for putting all of this effort and energy and time and allowing us to be a part of this and to really create something of value for our community. It's beautiful. I love being a part of it.
Yeah, and we love having you be a part of it. It's been awesome. Like I said, you and everyone else, you've really been re-energizing me this year. You getting me like, oh yeah, like, you reminded me of like how I was like years ago, kind of like that kind of high energy sort of stuff. And it's great. So it's going to be, I'm looking forward to seeing you and your kids at Anarchapulco. And just less than a couple weeks, we'll put all the links to everything down below. Like Angel said, check out that Conversations in Anarchy. It's really great. It's like super underrated. It's the most underrated show on YouTube right now. It gets like 100 or 300 views sometimes, and it's really awesome. So if you didn't know about it, and you can get like very involved in it, it's very, it's interactive and that sort of a thing. So it's actually really, really great, and I wish more people knew about it. So now you know from me on this show about it, and I think we did post one on this channel a while ago. But anyway, we'll put all the links to all that down below, and like we said, if you have some family, definitely don't be shy to bring them down, and lots of activities down there and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know about you, Angel. I'm kind of stressed out. We're like 2 weeks away here. There's lots of stuff still to do, and it's a pretty crazy event. But I'm really looking forward to it. And once everyone's down here in Acapulco, I'll feel a lot better, and hopefully everything will go really well. And I think it will. And then I'll feel a lot better. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you down here in less than 2 weeks. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love.